Hello everyone, welcome to the 6G Architecting Tomorrow series, brought to you by Nokia. So far we've explored two important pillars of 6G, being value-driven and AI native. Today we will dive into the third pillar, sustainability. I'm Amanda Hu, Head of 6G Technology Marketing at Nokia, and I'm delighted to be a host for this important discussion. Every new generation of connectivity has promised to be faster, stronger, and smarter. We often look at speed, latency, and coverage, all important metrics that will continue to matter. But 6G has the chance to deliver something even greater, a network that helps tackle climate change, advance global equality, and ensure that innovation delivers long-term social and economic benefits while protecting both people and the planet. Sustainability is a broad topic, so in this 30-minute session, we will stay focused on three things: the why and how 6G can support global net zero ambitions and circular pathways; the what, 5 core principles for embedding sustainability into 6G by design; and the latest status, so some key insights from 3GPP discussions on sustainability aspect. And to guide us through, I'm joined by 4 amazing experts who will share their knowledge and perspectives. Francesca Sartori, Head of Sustainability Research and Standardization. Francesca brings over 30 years of global experience in telecommunications. She's been turning complex technical innovations into strategic business opportunities. In her current role, she leads sustainability initiatives and drives impact in this important space. Great to have you, Francesca. Clare McCarthy, Senior Principal Sustainability Solutions. Clare has more than 20 years experience as a telecom analyst and consultant. Lately, she has been focusing on how communication service providers are accelerating their net zero journeys and how sustainability should be built into 6G standards beyond just energy efficiency. Clare is also part of the EU Lighthouse project called Sustain 6G. Welcome, Clare. Olivier Guyot, Senior Standardization Specialist. Olivier has extensive expertise across mobile and fixed network end-to-end. He specializes in environmental efficiency, especially the energy dimension. He presents Nokia in ITU-T and SC standardization bodies, and his research has led him to investigate sustainability from a more holistic viewpoint. Thank you for joining, Olivier. Last but not least, we have Laurent-Walter Goix, Senior Standardization Specialist. Laurent-Walter has a long track record in telecom research and standardization. He is a 3GPP delegate covering sustainability-related topics, has led 5G advanced work on energy, and is now driving the introduction of sustainability in 6G. He's also deeply engaged in EU collaborative research on this topic. Welcome, Laurent-Walter. Well, with that, let's get straight into the discussion today. Francesca, could you please start off by sharing what key sustainability challenges we face in the coming decades and why 6G will be so critical to enable global net zero strategies?
Sure. Thanks so much, Amanda. And let's start setting the context. But for doing this, I will ask some questions. That, of course, is a rhetorical question because you cannot answer. I will answer myself. So let's see, what does it mean, 30 million tons? What would trigger in your mind? These are the amount of ice that melts every hour in the Greenland. So you said, and so what? Who cares? Yeah, we should care because this fresh water goes on the ocean that you can compare like our planet blots. So in a way, we are impacting our blots, our planet blots. And this means that we are impacting the biodiversity, the salinity, the sea level, the ocean currency, as well as the fishery productions. So this means that is every hour we have been impacting the ocean with a different side effect. Another questions for you. 1.8, what does it mean? Is the amount of earth that we have been using we have used last year. So what does it mean? 1 earth and pieces means that we as a humanity, we have used 1 earth and 0.8 portion more on natural resources. So we are overusing the resources that our Earth is able to produce every year. In a way, we are already been using the resources for the next generations. Another question, and the numbers. 6.9. 6.9 is the percentage of material that has been reused or has been reintroduced in the production cycles last year. So meaning that we have, if 100 is the material that we have used for producing products, only 6.9% comes from a second hand. So meaning that we are not very good in introducing the circular economy principles and processes. And compared to the years before, we have even reduced the amount because we have overused the productions. And this goes all hand in hand with the increase of natural resources uses every year. But it's not just between 23 and 24. We've been observing these trends for more than 1 decade, or even 2 decades. So because of this, you may remember that 10 years ago, 196 countries has met together in Paris and they signed off the so very famous Paris Agreements that aims to achieve by 2050 the net zero target. What does it mean? That we want to reduce the carbon emission productions more than 90% compared to the pre-industrial level, as well as keep the temperature increase much below 2 degrees compared to the pre-industrial level. But this, of course, is not happening over the night. We cannot say in 2049, okay, which button should I push in order to achieve this target? We need to take action. It takes longer. So we have 25 years to go, but these next 25 years will be essential, critical to achieve those targets. And you will see 6G is just in the middle of these windows. So 6G has a very key role, can play a very key role. So can be a challenge as well as an opportunity for the 6G system to not only be sustainable itself, but also to contribute to other industries to achieve those targets. So this is the context in which 6G is going to happen. And now I hand over to Amanda for the next chapter. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Francesca, for that great overview. It's clear that as the world needs to accelerate climate action toward a net zero future, 6G must have sustainability built in from the very start. So the next question is, how can we ensure 6G will have sustainability by design? And what are the key considerations? Clare and Olivier, could you tell us more about this?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. And, that was a really great introduction by Francesca, who really pulled out the sustainability issues that we're facing over the next decade or so and demonstrated how that 6G timetable for standardization and product launches is going to really align with that need for greater sustainability in products, especially to address climate action and net zero targets. But I think before we go on to that, we probably need to look a little bit at what's happening with 6G. I mean, there have been some initial developments already. There's some standards work underway. Olivier, you've been following that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, that's right, Claire. Sure. In 2023, the ITUR provided the first guidance and requirement for 6G initial deployments, and that includes sustainability. So in fact, it's one of the 4 overarching aspects they documented to act as design principle applicable to all the usage scenarios. The 3 other aspects they documented were connected v unconnected, ubiquitous intelligence, and security and resilience. But they are all part of a wider definition of sustainability that encompasses environmental, obviously, but also social, economic pillars. So for instance, societal and economical sustainability cover issues like breaking the digital divide and responsible and ethical business too. Consequently, sustainability cannot be just viewed as a new or additional part, as shown in the ITUR wheel of capabilities. So it begs the question how sustainability can be central to the design of the next generation of mobile wireless system. But for that, let's take a step back first. So what does a holistic and pragmatic approach truly entail? At Nokia, our sustainability by design framework focuses on 4 key areas. First, we analyze the system ecosystem, its boundaries, its different stakeholders, its dependencies. Second, we acknowledge the future global realities, including environmental, socio-economic, technological, and even geopolitical factors, so that we better understand what will shape the 6G deployment in the 2030s. And third, we try to backcast from the future outcomes we want and the future global realities what should be the steps needed and what should be today's guiding principles to reach those outcomes. So, and finally, we have an iterative process, still ongoing, obviously, where we fine-tune the targets, their measurement methodology, and especially the trade-off, and try to translate all that into design implementation and standards. But enough academic theory. Claire, what are the results of such research, please?
Well, Olivier, when we talk about sustainability, what we're referring to is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And it's got to apply across 3 pillars. So there's environmental, social, and economic sustainability. And 6G will need to address these issues and the other challenges that CSPs are going to face during the 2030s and beyond, to ensure that they can deliver, opportunities for commercial success to other industries. And it's a really big ask. So we've identified 5 guiding principles that should be embedded into 6G to ensure that it's sustainable, that there is sustainability by design from day one. And so that will help other industries become more sustainable too. So we've identified 5 principles. The first is energy efficiency and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The second is to ensure AI sustainability. Third, hardware efficiency. Fourth, resilience and climate change adaptation. And finally, value-oriented design and operations. So let's start with the first principle of energy efficiency, improving energy efficiency and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Olivier, I'm going to hand over to you because you've been looking at that for quite a few years now. Can you give us a bit more detail?
Sure. Let's start with the fact that a lot of new technologies promise greater energy efficiency, and it's quite a clear cut that 6G will need to deliver that too. But as you noted earlier, Claire, and I think it was also emphasized by Francesca, 6G will be deployed at a critical time when globally we all need to reduce both energy consumption and emission. And not only the networks, on the device side too, so the user equipment, or UEs, as they call them in 3GPP. In fact, many ICT industry stakeholders, including Nokia, have committed to achieve net zero by 2040 at the latest. So 6G deployment in the 2030s must actively contribute to this goal. So if mobile operators are going to stay on track of this net zero milestone, they will need to introduce 6G within their legacy multi-RAT networks and the overall UE population without increasing the impact of the overall system. So they'll have to use smart architecture and protocols and tools to break the link between the increased data traffic and service demand compared to the energy consumption. And just as important, they should not ignore idle times either. They will need the right enablers to scale down from peak capacity to then have both network and device using low or nearly no power.
That sounds like a lot of automation, integration, analysis, etc. is going to be needed. Surely AI can play a role there?
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue to our second guiding principle, AI sustainability. So we know that AI can deliver efficiency, productivity benefit, not only in telecoms, but as they say, in most of the industries. And AI is very capable of handling complex and massive data landscape. So this is going to be really important given the speed, latency, scale, and data volume of mobile networks. But there are challenges. The energy and water consumed by the computing powering AI, the additional complexity, the maintenance, the possible lack of transparency, and so on. So we need to ensure that AI is used responsibly in 6G and with as low environmental impact as possible. This AI sustainability principle also includes the trustworthiness and compliance readiness of AI processes, resources, and datasets. So if we target AI native 6G, then it will also need to be compliant by design on day one, so that it can be accepted for deployment, especially within the growing regulatory frameworks. But again, we have to be careful because 6G will not address sustainability fully if we only look at the software side. Right, Claire?
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, hardware plays a very important role too. And that brings us very neatly to our third principle of hardware efficiency. So while new infrastructure and UE can deliver the best technical performance, CSPs do need to consider the impact of designing and developing new products. Because it's not just the in-use phase that generates emissions. The raw materials, production, transport, and handling of waste from products at the end of their life all use energy and generate emissions. So to increase resource efficiencies, reduce material waste, and ensure a longer system lifetime, this principle really emphasizes the need to enable higher utilization as well as scalability and modularity, for example, through dynamic sharing and maximization of common resources such as compute capacity.
But hold on, Claire. I mean, don't we have the risk that if we target very high utilization and sharing too, then we end up having even more single point of failure in the networks?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Olivier, because as you know, this third principle is going to link very closely with the fourth principle, which is resilience and climate change adaptation, because this really relates to the type of hardware and architecture that you choose. We know that a lot of equipment can already withstand extreme temperatures, but can it cope with high winds and floodwaters that persist for days?
And that's for climate change or natural environmental disruption. And we have to be careful not to forget about socio-economic volatility. So earlier this year, we had whole Spain and Portugal that went dark for more than 5 hours. And that's exactly when the digital infrastructure is critically needed. So to protect the most vulnerable citizen and especially to provide connectivity.
Yeah, exactly. So CSPs will really need to look at redundancy and resilience, battery storage and recovery mechanisms. And I think innovative design enablers are crucial for maintaining service delivery, even when a significant portion of the network is compromised. So by prioritizing subscriber and traffic management during such events, critical services can remain operational.
Yeah, you can really see the value of a solution that can do that, which is why we made the fifth guiding principle. So value-oriented design and operation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's finding technical key performance indicators can be relatively straightforward, but identifying sustainability values less so. But if 6G is going to help others on their sustainability journey, it really needs to help ensure everybody's connected and able to access public information, healthcare and educational services. So they need to look at things like integrating 6G networks with non-terrestrial networks to maintain that connectivity, for example.
Yeah, this is really where 6G should be a differentiator. So if 6G puts this value at the core of its standardization and development, then we could get the benefit of greater social inclusion, greater economic values, while also protecting and possibly even restoring the environment. So we can all imagine that this does require a lot of work and a lot of collaboration. So possibly, very likely, even beyond what 3GPP standardization is normally doing.
Exactly. And I think all of this work is under consideration. So I'm working on the Sustain 6G project, which is doing a lot of research among a consortium, looking at, sustainable 6G and 6G for sustainability. HexaX2 was the forerunner to all of this, and it's all that research is contributing into 3GPP standards activities for 6G. And there's also complementary work on methodologies happening in IT, UT, and ISO, looking at net zero and life cycle assessments. And, the regulatory landscape is evolving. So they will use this research and reference these standards to really foster the adoption of the needed sustainability practices. But I think we should probably focus a bit on the 3GPP angle. So I'm going to hand back to Amanda because she's got an expert lined up to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Claire and Olivier, for taking us through the concept of sustainability by design in details and for pointing out the importance of collaboration. Building on that, Laurent-Walter, can you share some highlights from the 3GPP discussions on sustainability and how they are helping to move the needle?
Sure, Amanda, thank you. Olivier and Claire highlighted 3GPP as a key role in designing 6G specifications. First of all, in its first 6G workshop in March this year, 3GPP has officially endorsed sustainability-related aspects as being one of the main drivers and objectives. It's a strong message to the community that the technical enablers provided by 3GPP should meet these expectations. Of course, everyone has its own definition of sustainability. Besides the keyword, you can already see many links to the sustainability by design principle just presented by Olivier and Claire, such as resilience, energy, or social aspects like connected the unconnected, also in line with the IMT 2030 principles. Now, when we take a broader look on how to actually consider sustainability when creating ICT solutions like a new mobile technology, we can refer to the iterative process shown on the right, which was defined by the 6GIA. The idea is that rather than focusing only on technical performances and KPIs, the development should be guided by key values and indicators around various sustainability aspects to drive innovation, but also to create a positive impact for the society and the planet. So until now, the scope of 3GPP standardization has natively focused on the first and the fourth step of this process. Defining use cases, requirements, and KPIs, so-called stage 1, and then specifying technical enablers to achieve them, what we call stage 2 and 3. Typically, other parts of this process fall outside of 3GPP scopes when it comes to defining value-oriented metrics and targets and assessing them later on, as this can depend on deployments and many external factors, including regulation. But now, 3GPP has started to cover an extra step, that is, to identify the key values associated with the technology. And of course, these values, which typically represent sustainability aspects, become now the cornerstone of the whole process. And so based on this extra step, we started to embed sustainability from the so-called stage 1. That means when defining use cases and service requirements for 6G in the SA1 group. And here's the reference picture of how sustainability by design is currently being considered. First of all, the scope of sustainability is spanning across all of its 3 major pillars that are environmental, of course, but also economic and social. Then, SA1 has been identifying more than 10 key sustainability aspects, sort of key values with respect to the previous diagram, to analyze the impact of 6G use cases, whether they bring a potential benefit or a potential risk if not properly considered. These aspects span across 2 categories. First, at the bottom, the sustainability aspects embedded in 6G's own technological lifecycle, what we call sustainability in 6G. In other words, the 3GPP enablers are expected to be energy efficient, to help reduce TCO for operators, etc. These are the direct impacts or first-order effects of the technology. Second, above, the sustainability aspects related to the usage and the application of 6G across industry, what we call 6G for sustainability. These are the second-order effects of 6G. Now, in 3GPP, besides referring to IMT 2030, we agreed to refer to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals when it comes to sustainability. And by ensuring these aspects are considered, 6G can contribute to nearly all of the 17 SDGs directly or indirectly, and benefit people, planet, and the economy. So concretely, if we look now at the main 6G features and services being studied in SA1, this is currently how they map to these sustainability aspects, for which they either bring a positive impact or to be mitigated. Most of these features are aligned with the IMT 2030 usage areas. And as you can see, it's no surprise, and I guess a good baseline, that the system and operations features of 6G, shown here as the green slice, address all the sustainability in 6G aspects below. And then in general, the key aspects related to the environment and trustworthiness are being considered in each and every feature, covering the entire pie. But another interesting thing is, if we look from the service standpoint, is that the ubiquitous connectivity, which is marked here as a pink slice, is actually impacting all the sustainability aspects as a transversal enabling technology, mainly brought by the seamless integration of terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks as a key novel feature in 6G. And clearly, this is what we expect from this service. Extending coverage anywhere on Earth is not only about bridging the digital divide, it's also about opening new economic opportunities and help reverse rural depopulation at scale. Of course, always with an eye on the potential environmental impacts of such service. So, where are we now? Nearly 2 years ago, we as Nokia introduced key values and sustainability into the very first discussions around 6G standardization in 3GPP for 3 reasons. First, to analyze the potential sustainability impact of 6G use cases by discussing their actual value, but also their potential risks if not properly addressed. Second, to target better service requirements and to provide guidance and recommendations so that the specifications themselves and later their implementations and deployments will maximize this value and minimize the risks. Third, to start documenting how 6G by design will address the expectations of IMT 2030 overarching principles around sustainability at large. Clearly, as anticipated earlier, discussing sustainability aspects at the core of the technology design in a systematic way is not an easy thing. We need to come together as a global industry with customers and partners along the standardization journey to shape 6G technology and get consensus with respect to everyone's expectations of its overall sustainability value. This work has started naturally within SA1 as the most service-oriented group in 3GPP, and it's still ongoing, but it's also starting to move to more technical groups. For example, SA2 or SA4 or SA5, so-called stage 2, as they are scoping the 6G study and currently clarifying how to address sustainability in their enablers. But as you can imagine, a lot more work and focus is needed, and we invite all the 3GPP stakeholders to collaborate. So I hope I could give some highlights on this great ongoing challenge to move the needle towards sustainability by design in 6G. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Laurent-Walter, and a big thank you to all our speakers today. Listening to all of you, 3 things really stand out to me. First, 6G will be a key enabler of global net zero strategies throughout its entire life cycle. Second, the 5 sustainability by design principles are essential. They ensure sustainability is well embedded in 6G, and that 6G will also help drive sustainability across other sectors. And third, sustainability is now firmly on the 3GPP agenda. It's important for the industry to support its momentum and stay committed. We hope you enjoy the session. To learn more about Nokia's 6G vision and sustainability, you can visit our 6G page and supporting materials. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at the next 6G Architecting Tomorrow session. Bye for now.